You know that feeling, right? You try to bring up something a little deeper at work, something like purpose or meaning, and you're just met with, well, awkward silence. It's a really tricky balance. So today, we're going to decode how to bring these powerful ideas into the workplace without setting off all the alarm bells. Let's get into it.
I mean, this question really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? For some people, talking about this stuff is a huge source of inspiration. For others, it's an immediate, nope, not at work, red flag. And that tension, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay, let's get one thing crystal clear from the get-go. When we talk about spiritual intelligence, or SQ, we are not talking about religion. Think of it more like universal human values, things like integrity, compassion, purpose, that frankly just make for better leaders and better workplaces. It's all about getting to the why behind the what of our jobs.
So that brings us to the core of the problem. If these ideas, purpose, integrity, are so obviously good, why is it so tough to talk about them at work? Well, a lot of the time, the issue isn't the concept itself. It's the packaging.
Yeah, just that one word, spirituality, can be a huge roadblock. It carries so much personal baggage for people, right? And it can instantly make them feel uncomfortable or excluded in a professional setting. The real goal here is to get all the benefits of these ideas without, making everyone squirm.
So how do we actually get past that barrier? Well, the key, it turns out, is all about reframing. It's about using language that's secular, that's inclusive, and that focuses on the core ideas, not the loaded words.
And here's a perfect example of what I mean. It's a simple shift, but it's so powerful. Instead of talking about a company's soul, you talk about its core values. See the difference? One feels kind of personal, maybe a little abstract. The other feels professional. It feels actionable. It's something an entire team can actually get behind and work towards.
Think of this as our practical translation guide, our little cheat sheet. Instead of spiritual intelligence, we can say purpose-driven leadership. A spiritual practice, that just becomes a reflective practice or mindful moments. The idea is to take the essence of what these concepts are about and wrap them in a language that everyone in any diverse workplace can understand and support.
So, here's the bottom line. You shift the whole conversation away from abstract beliefs and onto concrete behaviors. I mean, look at this list. Who's going to argue against more integrity in decision-making, or more empathy, or a stronger sense of shared purpose? Nobody. This approach grounds the whole thing in positive actions that we can actually see and feel.
And of course, leadership is absolutely crucial here. This isn't about making big, grand speeches. It's about modeling the behavior. When a leader is just open about how they made a decision, or even shares a personal struggle, they're making it safe for everyone else to be more authentic too. It literally builds psychological safety from the top down.
Okay, so what does this look like in the real world? This 4-step framework for designing a program is honestly, it's gold. First, and this is huge, you make it optional. No one's forced. Second, you use simple, clear language that's backed by science. Frame meditation as, say, stress reduction, not something mystical. And finally, let employees lead these initiatives. That makes it feel real and authentic, and that's how you get genuine buy-in.
All right, so we've got this great toolkit. It seems like the perfect solution for making these concepts work-friendly, but is it? Is it really that simple? Is it possible that something important gets lost in translation?
And that question brings us to the other side of the coin. Because while this secular, work-friendly approach solves a lot of problems, it can also create some new ones. There are some very real, hidden costs to this whole translation process.
The first risk, and honestly, it's probably the biggest, is that you might end up losing the very depth and richness that you were trying to bring in the first place.
Think of it like an iceberg. Secular terms are fantastic for describing the tip, the observable behaviors like being more compassionate, but they really struggle to convey the immense depth below the surface, that profound feeling of connection or transcendence. And by focusing only on what we can see, we might accidentally dismiss the deep inner work that's needed for real growth.
And that leads us right into the second risk. These profound, beautiful ideas get watered down and become just another set of corporate buzzwords. They get trivialized.
This is such a critical point. You've probably seen this happen, right? Mindfulness becomes a 5-minute checklist item just to boost productivity. And employees are smart. They can see right through it when a deep personal journey is being co-opted for corporate gain. And that just breeds cynicism, which is the exact opposite of what you're trying to build.
The third risk is a bit ironic. In our effort to be inclusive of everyone, we might actually end up not fully meeting the needs of people who already have established spiritual or religious beliefs.
I mean, think about it. For an employee whose sense of purpose is deeply connected to their faith, just talking about guiding principles might feel a little flat. It can fall short. A strictly secular approach can, without meaning to, send a signal that their full, authentic self isn't really welcome. And that just reinforces the very split between work life and personal life we're trying to fix.
Okay, risk number 4. This one comes from the language itself. Without a really solid framework, these secular terms can become incredibly vague and confusing. What does conscious leadership actually mean? Seriously, to one person, it's about ethics. To another, it's about meditation. This kind of ambiguity makes it so easy for skeptics to just dismiss the whole effort as fuzzy thinking. And it makes it almost impossible to build a shared, coherent culture around these ideas. And finally, there's a risk we almost never talk about: the risk of hidden cultural bias. We think we're planting these universal values, but are we sure they're not just shading out other important perspectives? We might assume that words like purpose or self-awareness are universal, but they're often understood through a very Western, very individualistic lens. For employees from different cultural backgrounds, these concepts can land in a completely different way. So, a supposedly universal approach could accidentally end up alienating the very people it's trying to include.
So, after all that, where does that leave us? It's clearly not a simple case of one way being right and the other being wrong. What it really is a delicate balancing act. It's like walking a tightrope between making these ideas accessible and keeping their depth.
And that's really the ultimate question we all have to grapple with, isn't it? The goal is to make our workplaces more human, more meaningful. The challenge is finding a language that opens the door for everyone without emptying the room of its soul. Definitely something to think about.